let's start with the beginning. What made you decide to start a health tech business in the first place? I guess there are a lot of things you could have been doing, but you decided to start a health tech business. So what was your inspiration? Or how were you tricked into building a health tech business in Nigeria? So let's start with you, Teniola.
Hi, everyone. So I think first and foremost, I'm a pharmacist, so I guess I may always probably have done something in healthcare if I was going to do a startup. And I think when you basically just work and daily, I saw like the challenges people had, especially I worked in community pharmacy for the early part of my career, and I saw like a common challenge that people had repeatedly, and which was basically people trying to find medication in like the pharmacies I was working at. So you'd come to my pharmacy, I wouldn't have exactly all you want, or I have family members calling me up to say, please, I'm looking for this particular thing, XYZ here. And then I'm like, oh, that pharmacy typically wouldn't carry that product anyways, but there are other like smaller pharmacies that carry like oncology medicine, so I can help you like get it from that pharmacy. So I saw like there was a need, and I felt like at some point, I literally woke up one morning with a light bulb moment that how do we amplify this to, serve more people, because definitely a lot more people are dealing with this problem today. In terms of, I would say, the startup part, I think I come from a family where we're a bit entrepreneurial, so I've kind of always wanted to do something entrepreneurial and not just be like, I would say, a regular community pharmacist. But in terms of the particular idea of Pharmarun, it did just kind of like come in at that point in time.
Okay, Abimbola.
I think my story is similar to hers. I'm also a pharmacist, but a distinct part of my career is that I hadn't practiced pharmacy for a long time. I had stepped out into management consulting, and my last role prior to setting up Advantage Health Africa was as the Chief Operating Officer for the Tony Elumelu Foundation. And there I was managing a $100 million fund for ensuring entrepreneurs were solving social issues and various other issues across Africa. And it occurred to me that if I was to dig deep into my own background, there are areas and gaps that needed touching up or needed some help. And so when my family member then had an issue with sourcing a colostomy bag, I just thought, oh, come on, we should be able to get that. And we went around almost 9 pharmacies and didn't get. And we ended up somewhere on the other side of town. And it made sense that, look, there are many people searching for products around, but in the wrong place. Because the product exists, but you just have to know where it is, and started to aggregate pharmacies to meet that gap. And here we are today.
All right. Tito, you've done more than one startup, so I think you have to turn it on.
Yes, working.
It's working now? Yeah. Okay, so you've done more than one startup. What made you decide to do it repeatedly?
Do you want the internet version or the real version?
So, yes, thank you for asking that question. Because when we were crafting this topic, the one thing that was at the top of our mind is a raw, unfiltered conversation, not the sound bites that social media wants. Okay. So,
I heard that Paystack sold for 200 million.
That
was my reason.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you for being very honest.
That was it.
How is it going? When are you selling yours for 200 million?
I don't know. That's the didn't tell me. They just told me that I was in a tech hub, and they just announced Paystack sold 200 million. I'm like, wow. And I'm a dietitian, and I just finished from Lagos University Teaching Hospital. My salary was 89,000 naira. And so I was like, oh my God, there's so much money. And they're like, yes, now there are tech boys here earning $5,000. I said, oh, really? And that's how I found myself in tech. That's it.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, so still on you. You wrote this article a couple of weeks ago where you were talking about how, we are basically wasting our time building apps. And yes, I want you to explain, right? Why do you think, what mistakes, because you've built a few startups, like when you started out, what mistakes did you make, especially around tech? Because we always make this joke that first-time founders, they rush out to go build tech, second-time founders, third-time founders, they first of all make sure they have like customers lined up and all of that. So what were the mistakes you made? You had this idea, you wanted to go and at least get started on the journey, making 200 million, and then what were some of those mistakes you made?
I think my biggest mistake was building an app first. So it was app first. And the annoying thing for me was I was among all of these other tech founders. So, I mean, it was the year Paystack sold. So you can imagine every other person was trying to build something. And I got caught up in all of that. So I'm moving from medicine, clinical nutrition into tech. I had no background. I just saw everybody building an app. And so I also wanted to build the app. But what I did was when I started, I paid 2 different sets of developers. Nobody told me that dev boys are not okay. They didn't tell me. And so I paid the first set. 7 months later, no product. The boy just came to my office and was performing. Oh, I'm sick. So 7 months, we didn't have a product. I paid the next set of developers. And of course, there was still one story. And one day I woke up and said, I'm going to build it myself. I'm gonna do it and I'll do it, And it took me another 2 years to learn how to. I started from no code to low code, and I built an app. I won 3 million naira, and I invested 3 million naira in building the app, and then we did a launch party, no customer.
Someone is actually clapping for you. Sorry, how many of you here are technical? Okay, you know the kind of people you should meet on the way out to fight. Okay, so Abimbola, I don't know if you made a similar mistake, but what kind of mistakes did you make as well when you were starting out? Did you find yourself focusing too much on the tech solution? I mean, you're more like experienced, so I want to know if you also fell into the same trap of focusing on tech over the actual product.
So no, I didn't have the luxury of building tech first. I've always felt that you must understand the problem and then dimension the various parties. I've always known you must interface with multiple parties. So my first take was to build credibility and find the key stakeholders that would help me to elevate my voice. And so I started to work with associations of community pharmacies, national, state, and all of that. And I sold a vision to them. Because at the time, and rightly as you mentioned, I'm a more experienced entrepreneur, older and more experienced, so my reality is a bit different. The age played a big role in that I had seen several aggregations happen. I had led when we were building out ATMs in Nigeria. I had led when we were building out several other aggregations. So I knew the first thing to do was to find the key stakeholders that are decision makers. But my error was in assuming that we were on the same line in terms of what was good for the industry and good for the country. And so we had to part ways at a point in time very sharply, with me carrying evidence and gist and stuff and dumping it on a mega, at that time, mega platform that had all the decision makers, just so they would know that I was dealing with jokers. And so sometimes, I preach it over and over that partnership is the way to work, collaboration is the way to go, but I encountered people whose idea of collaboration was to use and dump. And I was ready to walk away, but I didn't want to walk away without burning some houses. I'm a bit more mature than when I was matured. And I wouldn't bother burning now. And so that's one of the mistakes I made. So it divided the sector or the industry. I had those who were backing me and saying, no, Abimbola, we're for you, you can do it alone. And then I had those who were, hypocritical in my view. I still hold that view. That, the other guy had a point, but he didn't. He was just fluffing around. I think so collaboration is the way to go, but you can make mistakes and errors in the way you engage.
Okay, I think we're going to come back to the subject of collaborations and the mistakes you made, but I want to hear from you, Teniola. At launch, the reason you're a founder is because you have assumptions. I don't think there's any founder who just wakes up without any assumption and then they start building. What were some assumptions you made? How quickly did you change course when you realized that perhaps your assumptions were either inaccurate or not properly formed? And I mean, there's always this problem of the sunk cost fallacy, where you've put in a lot of effort and it feels like you're emotionally attached to this idea, and so you do not want to go back, even though it's very clear that you're already on the wrong path. So, like, what was that like for you? Did you find it very easy to let go of those assumptions, or did you continue for a very long time?
So I think the first one is the assumption that everybody wants to work with you. So in terms of what we were building at Pharmarun is why pharmacy aggregator, right? So we have this great idea where we're going to put all the pharmacies in Nigeria together on one platform. We're going to give them amazing technology. They're going to plug into everything, and everybody is happy. But then you start building, you're talking to the pharmacies. First of all, you start with no code, because maybe us, we did not have money to hire two developers immediately. So we start with no code here and there, and you're on WhatsApp, and then you're trying to transition these pharmacies from WhatsApp, or you're even just trying to get them to give you your inventory, and you think it's a no-brainer. I've given you like a couple of orders, let's scale this thing up, but then they stop talking to you. They're like, I'm not giving you my inventory, it's my secret sauce. So that was like a wrong assumption that everything is going to go as planned once you follow, your best laid out thing. I think the second thing for us, which is a very big focal point for us at Pharmarun, is I was 1,000% convinced that I kind of wanted to build like a search engine, because I don't see why you need pictures to look for your medication. I'm not building an e-commerce platform. So we started, our first version of our product that we actually spent money building was like, you put in your medication, we search for it, and we get back to you, no pictures, XYZ, because I'm not building Jumia. Like, I'm very adamant that I don't want my platform to be an e-commerce platform, because that's not what we're building. And we kind of had that version for like 1 year, and every time the customers complain and give feedback, like, I don't see what I'm buying, I don't understand what's going on, but we're like, yes, but it's not Jumia. And we kept on and kept on, but like now we have kind of changed what the interface looks like, because obviously one of the things they tell you is you can't be emotionally attached to what you think you want to build. You have to listen to the market, you have to take product feedback, and your vision will still be the same. So for us, our vision is still clear what we want to do. We want to ensure that people have great access to medication, but like maybe how we imagined it initially is not what's going to happen at the end of the day, but you have to be willing to tweak. And I guess now we are more malleable, and we're able to, I guess, accept feedback and change a bit.
Okay, so I think two people now have expressed or shared that they struggle with tech in a way. So I guess my next question is around what that struggle looked like. With fintech, if I wanted to build a fintech app and I threw out maybe throw an application open, I probably will get a ton of people who have built fintech apps. But I assume that it's not the same for health tech, because we do not even have as many health tech startups as fintech startups. So how difficult was it for you to get developers who understood how to build healthcare products?
My co-founder is a product manager. She's worked in the space for a bit, so we did have developers. But I think the question is more around how difficult is it for you to get developers who can code that you can afford when you're starting? Because developers are there, but they want dollars. You may not have dollars. You need, again, there's speed, I guess. You want to maybe build your product in 6 months, so you need maybe 10 developers. You can afford only one at a particular point in time. So one of the things I know we did initially is we embraced a lot of no-code things. So we're able to get some funny thing that makes people think they're talking to a chatbot. So it's an app, but it's not really an app, if you understand what I mean. A lot of things are we're still doing a lot of things back-end manually initially, but at least you that you're ordering, you think that everything is looking cute and dandy. In terms of the hire itself, we outsource what we can outsource. So we've used like companies as well. We've not really had bad luck, if I'm being honest, in terms of the deliverables, because again, we have my co-founder is like a product manager, so she's able to really be on top of that. I'm not sure there's any like special nuances in terms of how they build the tech. Now there are things coming out in terms of regulations, FIRAs and all that, but when we started, it's just sort of like an aggregator. There are other aggregators, so it's kind of easy. It's now the data we feed into it that would kind of determine that it's healthcare versus any other platform.
Okay, Tito, did you have a similar experience, or was it just different?
Yeah, so like I said, the first two guys just messed it up. So I think they are used to things built a certain way, and then you are having to explain, no, I want it this way, I want it that way, and there's usually a lot of back and forth to say, oh, it can't be done like that. You know, I think when these people just know one way, it has to be that one way or the highway.
Okay, so
Let me add some context to building in health tech, and I'm speaking from pharmacy. Yesterday I saw, or 2 days ago, I saw someone who had built a beautiful app for butchering and selling goat, chicken, ram, and cows and all. And I smiled. I said, it's so lovely. I wish health tech was so simple, because your array of products is 4. And your sourcing is probably a few butchers, right?
Yeah.
With pharmacy, you have at least 11,000 items. And your sourcing is not 1. For us, we had to aggregate at least 1,000 pharmacies across Nigeria, because we were determined not to do a Lagos-based business. So you're asking someone to build for you a platform that gives you real-time insight into the inventory in at least 1,000 outlets, and all of them have different names for paracetamol, different names for even one product. So paracetamol can occur as May and Baker paracetamol, Emzor paracetamol, and so on. But we're saying, even how do they store Glaxo Ampiclox? Some will call it Ampiclox. Some will call it ampicillin cloxacillin. Some will call it Glaxo. Some will call it GSK. So there are different ways. You first of all have to make all of that come to one platform, and then you're looking for a database, and NAFDAC's list is very narrow. So you have to create your own nomenclature and then put a search algorithm in there for finding the product in the right place at the right price, and then creating a model system. So defining your needs, especially when there are no predecessors that have done it successfully, is first a challenge. So when I say we didn't build tech, we built tech. We built e-commerce first. We went to Cape Verde. Then we went down. Then we've gone to India. Now we're back in Nigeria, and that Nigerian has jackpot. And then we're now back to internal team members. 6 attempts at building something robust that will not embarrass you. I was on a stage like this in Senegal when I was talking about, my medicines, how we're delivering medication, and so on and so forth. And somebody eagerly, some European, eagerly went on my medicines platform to check, because he was very excited and came to meet me afterwards. You might want to check your platform. And I said, what happened? He said, he just let him check, and he found a glucose medication under supplements. I said, thank you. We shut that one down again. So it's a repeat over and over and over. It's painstaking. And the simpler your data set, the simpler what you have to put in is, the better. But for some of us, we don't have that luxury. If I was selling just medication for hypertension, it might be easier. But we're taking on a humongous sector, a humongous need, and sometimes people say, you don't have tech. I'm like, look, even when I built the tech, more people will go to the platform and come to WhatsApp to talk to us.
Yeah.
So if you keep judging my business on how fancy my website is, utility is less than 5%. And if you're a reasonable health tech provider or builder, you must begin to prioritize what are the areas. I know I'm extending this question because really we're here to talk about what are things people don't tell you. If all of your intention and your money is to build the tech part and not the health access part, then you're wasting your time. I'd rather make sure my WhatsApp is well manned. I have people who are alert and listening. I put a bot there that is at first attending to you. I put some reminder, all sorts to make low tech as accessible as possible for people. It's not the goal, is not to build the app. The goal is to serve, to create that access, make sure it's affordable, make sure it's quality medicine, people are not dying. So our goals are really very important and different from us building tech. Okay?
Yeah. Okay, so this is already getting very interesting, and I would stay with you a bit longer because I have quite a few questions from that response. I guess one is platform risk. So you've built a website and it's owned by you. You own it. Something I'll probably just share like a little maybe experience from those of us in the media space. We just know that by virtue of the kind of business we do, if we depend too much on one platform, an algorithm change, for example, could harm you. It may not put you out of business immediately, but it could hurt you seriously. Now, bringing that to health tech, where you've tried building a tech platform that people ideally should be able to access, but you're seeing very low utility, and people prefer to use something they are more familiar with. But that also brings up the issue of platform risk. How do you manage that, right? Because WhatsApp could wake up one morning and cut off access to their APIs. How do you manage that risk, and how are you even planning to maybe in the future? I mean, they may not do it today, but like having it at the back of your mind.
So what we've had to do over the years is to make sure we're here and there. Okay. We build our platform, you can access us there. You can send as simple a thing as SMS. You can send an email. You can go on WhatsApp. You just need to make sure people know you on different channels. For us, they're channels. So if one goes down, you must understand that people must quickly see the alternative. And we've grown organically, so there's always someone to speak to. We didn't, do a blast and then everybody just knows us through one channel. Okay. We've grown in such a way that there's a lot of word of mouth and a lot of knowledge about who we are and what we can do. So they will find you, they will knock, so first be in as many channels to interface with as possible. You may be building a great followership on Instagram, and Instagram is helping you to convert people that ask questions to come to WhatsApp. And if your Instagram handle is seized or what's the blue suspended, yeah, they must know they can get you through Twitter. You know when Twitter went down for a while then? Or many of you were still in school. So we were, responding active on Twitter. We had played such a strong role during the SARS thing. So we got a huge followership and all of a sudden it was frozen. We started building Instagram. But those are all still channels of entry, of introduction. You must have something at the back. We have a fully built fulfillment team that would answer you from any angle.
Okay, so let's go back to you, Tito. The two of them are in the pharmaceutical space. You're kind of in the nutrition space. I think one problem that a lot of healthcare or health tech startups have to contend with is behavior. There's a way people behave in Nigeria and I guess other African countries that your great ideas, and then back to what you were saying about apps and how they don't necessarily help the vast majority of people. How do you manage that conflict? There's something I want to do in my head, and then there's something that people demand. How do you manage that tension between what you want people to do and how they insist on behaving?
Okay, so I think I should start with Nigerians don't take their health seriously except they're dying. That's it. Especially those of us in the nutrition as medicine,
Yeah.
they must be hypertensive and maybe they've had a stroke or the diabetes is about to kill them, and young people don't take their health seriously. I know that there's everybody's trying to diet, but we are trying to diet because we want to have a slim waist and all. Nobody's dieting because they necessarily want to be healthy. Yeah. And so it means that the population of people we have to deal with are the older people. I remember when I was building my app, my father told me, nobody's gonna use it. And I was telling him, no, daddy, you're not current. And so when I went back and said, we are failed, he said, well, come back. Now go and do WhatsApp. And so because he was being very honest to say he's not gonna download any app that will be telling him what to do. He's not just going to do that. If he doesn't see his healthcare provider, or he doesn't put a face to it. And that's why I have the biggest grudge against telemedicine, because I personally think that if people don't know who they are talking to, when it comes to their health, they simply won't trust them, And so what we've had to do is leverage WhatsApp. Now, back to what you said, you get overwhelmed when you see a lot of messages. That's me too. So what I did is I went to hire somebody that would not mind. And then I hired a very competent dietitian. She's somewhere in the crowd, and she's been working with me since 2022, and she's a lot more patient, Because we have some patients that when you're talking to them, especially the elderly people, they want to tell you about their daughter that just got admission to Harvard. They want to tell you about their friend that is trying to borrow their meal plan. We had a patient whose daughter paid for service. And when we called him the first time, he said, he didn't know his daughter had that kind of money. And then he was very resistant. But finally, he started to use whenever we called him, he now started to tell us how he has told everybody in the neighborhood that there are these dietitians he talks to. And then they should come and subscribe because we have time to gist with him. Imagine.
Have you thought of maybe starting a side also?
No, but somebody said that to me yesterday. I went to a culinary event, and the man literally told me that what he thinks would work is if we actually offer that as a service, somebody to gist with these people. And so how do you manage that? Tech won't scale that. People won't download an app that they can't see, who is behind. And so I'm still trying to figure it out. That's the truth. That's the honest truth. Because how do I scale something that the clients need to talk to us? In fact, one of the things I've said to my dietitian is, when we do this consultation, let's spend 30 minutes. It's a lie. The girl will be on the call for 2 hours because they want to tell you what kind of vegetables they eat. They want to tell you what brand of rice they want to eat. And then we have to deal with all of that. Honestly, I'm still figuring how we are going to scale that. I don't know, that's the truth. But I'm sure we'll figure it out.
Okay, I mean, anyone can take up the challenge. Go and build a chat app for the elderly. So Teniola, let's come back to you, right? I'm not a very old person. I am still very much young, but I find that I still balk at the prices of some some medication, right? Thankfully, I work with TechPoint and I have a HMO. But if I did not, I believe I'll balk at the prices of some of some medication, and especially in the last 2 to 3 years, where the cost of living has skyrocketed, where the disposable income available to a lot of people has also dropped. How are you managing that? Especially even with like the dollar rate, where medication is 1,000 naira today, you come tomorrow, it's 1,500, in 2 weeks, it's probably 3,000 naira. How are you managing that? How are you managing that? How are you hedging your bets or your risk in this case?
Very good question. So first and foremost, inflation is there. People can't afford medicines. Like even me personally, my grandmother is obvious. She's 94. She's on medication. She takes a bunch of things. Usually before we thought was expensive, used to cost us I would say 80,000 naira a month. Now it's 250,000 a month. She's 94, not to be somehow, but 250K every month for a 94-year-old. But what we've been able to do is, even for like most of our customers today, is just offer generics. Before, if you were taking something that was branded, even with these multinationals leaving the country, you have like GSK, those brands don't exist anymore. It's kind of good for us in a way because it is promoting, I would say, local manufacturing and local brands. So like people that have asthma, there was a time it was trending on Twitter about Ventolin. The cost of Ventolin is now like, 30,000. But then Aerolin was able to rise as an alternative brand that people are now able to use. I think in terms of us as a business, what it has done for us is just, again, we have to talk to our customers a bit more. So we have this refill system where you're already on it. We call you, we ask you, we tell you that, oh, you've not filled your medicine. If it's because of, the cost, these are alternatives you can get. We also are, I guess, just constant communication, education, and telling people what they need to get. We work with a lot of HMOs today. So again, we are seeing the switch whereby people that used to be like paying out of pocket are now running to health insurance companies to kind of help them as well, just stay on their medicines and stay healthy and alive. It is a challenge. I think there's not so much we can do as a business. In terms of the flip side, someone said to me once that inflation is your friend. Why this might work for a business is that maybe before, for me to get 100,000 naira in revenue, right, I would have to sell 10 items. Now I'll sell 2 items and say I've, gotten 100,000 naira in revenue. But in terms of people and users, it's maybe not as easy as it was before. And what you've also seen is that people are not buying non-essential products. So if before maybe you're a retail pharmacy or you're really focused on stocking multivitamins, all these fancy things, that's not what people are interested in buying anymore. More people are buying only things that are keeping them alive and just essential medicines.
Okay, inflation can be your friend. I guess it's all about perspective, right? Okay, so I want to do like a little thought experiment, which is not part of my questions. And this is something an investor kind of shared, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and that's financing, not funding for you guys, but like financing for your customers or for your users or your patients, whichever term you use. Abimbola, you've been a management consultant, you've been a pharmacist, you're now building a health tech startup. What are the chances of us being able to build a proper financing system for healthcare? So we have credits for, I guess, other needs, but we don't exactly have financing for, for healthcare. Yes, HMOs are doing a very good job, I hope, but we do not necessarily have financing for healthcare. What do you think we should be doing there? What are we currently doing wrong? Or where are we failing at? Let's start with that, and then what should we be doing?
Okay, it appears I'll have to explain what we are doing.
Okay.
Because we are doing already. 3 years ago, we launched a product called My Advantage that all you have to pay is a subscription and you get free medicines for up to 30 conditions.
Okay.
What that does for you is a medication assurance. We've done the costing, we've made sure that there's enough of a demand and we can pre-buy and do all sorts of things to make sure we can get you the medicines. And you can walk into any participating pharmacy and pick it up as well, so you don't have to pay for delivery. That's called My Advantage, and we kept tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. It's a product today, so it's a financing or affordability solution that people can take up so that you're not as vulnerable as the other person who is ill and then doesn't have a lot in their pocket at that time. So it's to solve for out-of-pocket expenses. The second financing product that we have released is called My Care, and now we've joined forces with another health tech innovator called Zuri Health, and we've called it My Zuri Care. What it does is that if you know you have a chronic illness, and at that time, a lot of prices were dynamic, they were changing rapidly. more things have stabilized now, but they were changing rapidly. We gave you assurance and time to plan for the changes because we could stabilize for 3 months or stabilize for 6 months by you simply assuring us you would buy from us, all right? So you didn't have to come every month and meet a new price. It helped you to stabilize your expectations. And that's what you need, really, and that's what a lot of our contemporaries abroad enjoy. They are able to predict their orders and do that. Today, we now have a buy medicines now and pay later. And what we've done is that even though we had launched it 2 years ago and we had all the fancy videos and all, we couldn't guarantee our partners then of the credibility of those who were borrowing. But today we have partnered with a credit bureau that has 40 million users, and they've done a profiling of all of the people that have good credit, and we're now lending to those ones access to get your medicines and pay interest-free over the next 30 days. Now, it doesn't get better than that. I'm telling you, you won't pay an interest for 30 days, and you can earn money within those 30 days and then pay back earlier. Nothing wrong. So for us, we're constantly thinking, because our cardinal truths are 3. We're here to serve access, affordability, and quality. And affordability gives us room to keep playing with different models. So the buy now, pay later for medicines is new. Everybody's doing buy now, pay later for cars, for electronics, and no one had tried it for medicines, and now we're trying it, partnering with a credible partner that will at least give us soft landing. So those are services that are available. If you don't know about it, then find out, than to think, oh, Nigeria is bad, everything is bad, and then enter into that, helplessness situation that many people like to dwell in. It doesn't help you, it doesn't help us. We have constantly churned our product. We want you to patronize us so that, we can all be happy.
Okay, I'll just give you or have, ask one more question around that. Our fintechs are suffering and they are struggling to recover the loans they've given out. Of course, some of that, they actually deserve it for giving out loans to every single person. Those of them who have been calling me every morning know themselves. But in your case, you're not giving out money for luxuries. You're giving out money for something that is essential to someone's well-being. What has the response been like? Do you also have a 99.9% repayment rate that all the fintechs claim? Or have you had people default on that? And when people default, do you have, do you have mechanisms in place to protect yourself and also help them maybe repay, maybe sort of extend the timeline for them?
So yes, of course, you can default, but you default at a cost. Okay. And we've got another partner that is able to absorb that one. Not us. We're simply pharmacists. We're just, help us, please. Don't default. But if you default, we pass on that debt. And in more developed countries, that's what is done. You send it to people who are able to put in place effective recovery systems, not threatening to expose you and your grandmother and all of that. No, we don't do that. But remember, we're not just beating our chest and going bare-chested. We're working with CRC. As I sat there, what has also happened is that soon your credit profile will be tied to your NIN, and you'll be unable to access basic things like getting a passport, opening a bank account, getting a driver's license if you've got bad credit. So even this ecosystem is tilting towards better credibility, and we've keyed into it. We will give you, maybe this time next year, we'll give you better statistics about default rates. But I expect it to be much better than if we just gave to everybody. So we want you to have good credit. That history helps us to then profile you to say you're worthy of this benefit.
Okay, so unfortunately, I have a ton of questions, both the questions I had prepared before and questions in my head, but my guys have told me that I have a few minutes. But we'll try and answer some of those questions. I want us to get into partnerships. Unfortunately for you, you can't be an island. You have to partner with people for at least to deliver the best service possible. So let's begin with you, Tito. What has that experience been like? You have to partner with HMOs, you have to partner with hospitals and other healthcare service providers. What has the experience been with? And tell us, even the people who they've reneged on their agreements. Let's start with that.
Do you want the truth or the
Of course, always the truth.
So we partner with hospitals. Part of what we do is we cook for hospital kitchens, because, I'm a dietitian. Hospitals, we owe you money. I've had to threaten, suspend cooking. So I'm beginning to think that maybe the hospital business is going to stress me, so I want to dump them. But HMO is the lifesaver for everybody. I think that HMOs will just give you a bulk of patients. They don't pay a lot, but at least it gets the revenue going. We also partner with other dietitians. Also, that's a little tricky because my field is dominated by women and they always think you want to steal their customers. I'm very loud about my disdain for doctors. I'm very loud about it, but they are very good partners. Doctors will send you patients. Somehow we are able to put our differences aside off social media. It's only on social media I don't like doctors. In real life, they're my guys. Because my founder is a medical doctor and I've worked with doctors. So yeah, that's what partnership looks like for me. I partner with doctors. HMOs are my guys. The only challenge I have with HMOs is because of my field, nutrition. Everybody is a nutritionist now on social media. Mm-hmm. Everybody is trying to help people lose weight. Everybody is trying to help somebody reverse diabetes.
ChatGPT is also a nutritionist.
ChatGPT will give you a meal plan in less than 5 seconds. And so, because the barrier of entry is very low, I know that HMOs at the beginning, when I had my first startup, would always say they do not know the difference. How do I know that? What is the difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist, which used to be very absurd to me because the head of the HMO is a doctor and we all finished from medical school together, so you cannot tell me you don't know the difference, But now it's a little better. I think that because everybody is seeing that if you claim to be a nutritionist and you're coming to tell me I cannot eat plantain or I cannot eat white rice, then there's a problem. And so because there's already a lot of that back and forth, HMOs are beginning to absorb many more, nutrition businesses like mine. So, yeah.
Okay, Teniola, do you have anything to add to that?
In terms of partnership for us, I think I mentioned it before. Our business is really about collaboration because what we're offering is, one pharmacy can't do everything. You have to work with all the pharmacies across Nigeria. And I think now we're about 6,000 or 7,000 pharmacies in the country. So it's really at the core of it. And I think challenges we face will just really be still changing people's mindsets, right? First of all, people don't get why they need to give you their inventory because, again, it's the culture of safeguarding. I think sometimes as pharmacists, I think maybe because I'm a younger pharmacist, I don't really get why, but a lot of people kind of feel it's like their secret sauce. So why will I let you know that I stock paracetamol and amlodipine? But everybody's talking about paracetamol and amlodipine, but yeah. So they don't want to give you their inventory. So it's not making, I guess, progress as easy as we would like. The other thing I'll say on the other side as well is us trying to work with hospitals. The partnership on that side isn't also as great because for me, my business is focused, I would say, on B2C, so individuals. What we want from hospitals is not to supply your hospital pharmacy. I'm not trying to be a wholesale pharmacy. But what we get most times is the hospitals are also reluctant to admit that they don't have all the medications people need. They don't want to admit the fact that they send a lot of their patients out of their hospital pharmacy with prescriptions. So when we approach them that, we can help you, take up that prescription instead of you sending them to random places, let's intersect there at that point. But it kind of seems a bit defensive as well. I think we are working through it, constant education, constant engagement, stakeholders, meetings, just
trying other means. So if we want to use technology, like I guess Ms. Abimbola said, and it's not working, we've tried, okay, just send me a text message. I'll call you. Can we send an email? So we're trying different ways to ensure that the partnerships move forward. But in terms of, I would say, there are other things that work. My business is really partnership heavy. We work with logistic partners as well across the country. We work with individuals. We work with companies. So far, so good, I guess, in summary.
Okay. So I think we might have enough time to take 2 questions.
Good afternoon, everybody.
That's a book.
My name is Tito, and by the grace of God, I just launched a company, or I say a business, last May, and it's called Heritage Nutritional Consult, where we want to bridge the vision of this startup is to be able to not just offer telemedicine, like you want to consult a doctor over the phone and then the person just prescribes and will deliver your drugs. We want to integrate nutrition because we believe that holistic health boils down to lifestyle. So we want to integrate nutrition into telemedicine and then want to deliver drugs. So just about convenient healthcare and bridging that healthcare accessibility. So my question is this, as a startup, a virgin startup, should I focus on the tech solution aspect or rather gathering nutritional info for various diseases? Like what
Abimbola?
Yes, she talked about building credibility first, like offering solution for the problems rather than the tech, because I've tried to reach out to some tech app developers and the money is it's not something that I can actually afford for now, but I'm looking at that because they'll tell you that having an app, it's going to bridge that gap whereby people can actually access you without, like if you actually want to solve that convenience problem, you need to have an app. So I want to ask, should I focus on the tech solution or just build my credibility first?
All right.
The answer is
please.
no. Don't focus on the tech first. Just because most times you think you know what you want to build, you think you know what your users want. I can tell you 1000% you're not correct at this point in time. It's better for you to like gather credibility, gather your users offline, even have like some people interested in what you're selling. You can start with a website, which is obviously, again, something to make you credible. If I check you out, I can get like quick information about you. But WhatsApp is your friend, emailing is your friend, word of mouth is your friend. By the time you've gathered like a sizable number of people who are even interested in talking to you, then we now move to building technology, because at that point in time, you have people that are saying, oh, maybe I would prefer if you have XYZ. So you kind of have like people that are telling you exactly how they would want your product to look like before you build. Because if you start by building, you are building based off what you think people want. And I can tell you, I think everybody has even sort of said it one way or the other here today, that it is not what people want or what people may use. So you would waste your money. It may also stop you from starting, because legit, you can start today. You say you launched yesterday, congratulations. But you can maybe start talking to more people than waiting for a product, a mobile app. And also, sometimes when it comes to healthcare, right, it took us a while to even build our mobile app because it's not so sticky. Let's be honest. Like if you build your app today, I might really want to, but I'm not going to download it because I'm going to use it maybe once a month. I don't know how often your product would service me, as opposed to maybe my phone app that I'm using every day, or a game, or like social media app. So again, for healthcare in particular, building an app first is not necessarily a good idea.
Okay, I think that answers the question. So we can take one more question. Bolu, there's someone behind you. So keep it very brief. Let's just go straight to the point.
Thank you. I'm not a healthcare founder, but I'm a consumer. So my two-part question. First of all, how do you manage medicines that require referrals, doctor referrals? I mean, not the little I know about medicine, not all products are over the counter. How do you manage products that require referral, especially on your app, when people are using your app to, I mean, if they are consulting you personally, you can request for the referral document or something. But if they are going through your app or something, how do you integrate that? Then my second question is, how do you manage legal risk that comes from consumption, especially for the nutritionist? For example, someone consumes your product and starts having stomachache or something. And we know correlation is not causation. The fact that they consumed your product and they are having issues does not mean your product caused it, but there's correlation. How do you manage that from the legal point of view to protect yourself and also protect the consumer that is consuming the product? Thank you.
I'll answer the pharmacy part first. First,
Okay.
on my platform, for example, we have a place where you can upload prescription, but that's, I guess, speaking technology-wise. But in terms of regulation today, right, we are governed by PCN, the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria, and we have also, as pharmacists, you have training on what makes a valid prescription, and our laws today states you must receive a physical prescription. We haven't yet gotten there where I would say e-prescriptions are integrated and are, I guess, as valid. I know Adebakin is very involved in our regulation settings, so she maybe can speak a bit more to that. So for us personally, we don't typically accept like prescription for controlled substances online. If we were to do it at all, it would be a situation whereby we have seen a picture of your medication, your prescription, and we've seen that it ticks all the boxes, but we are going to retrieve it at the point of delivery, or you go to our nearest pharmacy where they validate your prescription physically before they dispense the medication. I guess in terms of the other parts, for the pharmacy side, and they say it a lot, when you're building a startup, we think legal is not important, but it's very important. So you have to make sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's when people are accessing your platform. So in terms of like all your terms of use of service, XYZ, also you have to have indemnity cover, especially in healthcare. Like things sometimes, we don't pray for things to go wrong, but things sometimes, like you say, do go wrong. So it's important for you to have the necessary indemnity cover against your business, against your staff, for situations if they do arise. And then obviously you have proper SOPs for your staff and everybody to follow to ensure that everybody is doing the right thing at the right time.
Okay, yeah, let's.
Okay, so for us, the only set of people we deliver cooked food to now are people in the hospital. Like I said, we cook for hospital kitchens. And so what we do is, before food is dished to the patient, the head nurse has to taste the food first. And I mean, that's how we are able to
In front of the patient, or?
No, in the kitchen. But I mean, if the head nurse tastes it and gives us a go-ahead, you know, if nothing is wrong with her, then I mean, when it comes to food, it's tricky. So because I understand, I have friends that have eaten from places that I have recommended, and then they'll come back and say, oh, when I ate there, I had food poisoning. So I can't say, oh, that's not correct, because food business is very tricky. I won't even lie. I mean, I think my lawyer is somewhere at the back. Like I said, we are still figuring it out, to be honest. And so for the hospital kitchens, our fence is to say, if the head nurse ate it and nothing happened, and we served 5 other patients, then it's not my food. It's not my food.
Okay, Abimbola, do you have any thoughts to add to what they've said? Yeah, for this question. No, okay. All right, so the final round of questions would be around regulation. How regulated is the healthcare industry? What should we know if we decided to get into that space?
So just as Teniola mentioned, I've played a heavy role in seeing how we can inform policies and regulation. And just know that a lot of the regulators are catching up, but they're also catching up in a way that they can enforce whatever it is they understand. So you must have an online pharmacy license. And to get that, you need to have a physical pharmacy owned by you or in collaboration in one way. The terms are clear. You can check and be informed. You must make sure your drugs are licensed with NAFDAC. So there's the practice of pharmacy, which is by PCN, as you mentioned, Pharmacy Council of Nigeria. And then there's the regulation of products, which is by NAFDAC. So NAFDAC regulates drugs, cosmetics, food and drinks, as we know, right? So you make sure your products that you are pushing out online are registered. Then there is the capture of data, because you are handling the precious data and information of people. You must make sure you are compliant with the Nigerian Data Protection Authority. And it takes you a few millions to register with them and get yourself aligned. If you are offering telemedicine within what you are doing, you also need to be aligned. Yesterday, I was in a meeting in Abuja where the director from the Federal Ministry of Health was saying that they now have a protocol regarding telemedicine and they're going to release it very soon. So it's still coming, but just know that it's coming and you must comply. If you are practicing in Lagos, there's FEMA. FEMA would also want to have a say if you are offering physical or digital services. NDLEA is very particular about controlled medicines. And controlled medicines are all the things like sedatives, hypnotics, things that are intense in managing pain, like tramadol. You cannot be dispensing tramadol electronically. Whether it's the right dosage of tramadol or the exaggerated dosage of tramadol, we must direct you to pick up from a physical pharmacy that can retain your prescription, or we'll do whatever we have to do to make sure the prescription is retained. So there are all sorts of regulatory bodies that you have to contend with. I've mentioned NAFDAC, PCN, SON, data protection, there's even consumer protection, there's, help me, there's so many. Therefore, if you're going to go into health tech, please know it is beyond building the technology part. There's a lot involved with regulation, and you need government to be on your side or at least neutral. They're not fighting you. If government is fighting you, then you've got a problem. So there are only 3 positions you can have with government agencies. They are friendly and with you, or they are neutral and watching you, or they are against you. When we started online pharmacy back in 2017, which seems like 4 decades ago, but was just, 8 or so years ago, we had to self-report to PCN. We actually went to meet them that, look, we're going to launch October 1st, and this was, mid-September. And we had to preempt their needs because there was no law, nothing to regulate pharmacy online. But it played out for us because of the mindset we had. We said if there's no law for online pharmacy, it means there's no law against online pharmacy. So that is the mindset of an entrepreneur. Is one who sees a set of realities and sees opportunities within the same realities. And we twisted it around, went to the regulator, preempted their concerns, mentioned that each of these concerns, like the one the gentleman over there mentioned, how do you manage prescriptions? And we said, how do they manage prescriptions now for physical pharmacies? There's no repository or database of legitimate prescribers in Nigeria, none. The federal government is still working on it. In fact, sometimes if they are not able to fill prescriptions in the hospital, they write it on a torn piece of paper and ask you to go out for it. So there was no regulation against us operating if you want to go from that angle. So the point is there's so many parts, moving parts in health tech, and they're still nascent. You may need to preempt the regulator or engage the regulator or just plan with a standard. So we took Indian standard, we took Canadian standard, went to Dubai standard, even tried to borrow UK standard, but you do that work yourself in the absence of regulation.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that, Abimbola. So if you were here earlier, I said that by the end of this conversation, you would either leave with more resolve to build your startup, or you would leave, like me, your idea would just die here. And I hope I have with the help of my panelists, achieved one or both of those objectives. If I did not, well, I can't help you again. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to us. Thank you to my panelists for being very open. Yeah.